Hey everyone, welcome back. It's good to be here in the studio, after
Yeah.
taking a little break.
Yeah,
Need to check in on loved ones, make sure everything's okay,
of course. Yeah.
especially with all those fires happening out in California.
Absolutely. It's heartbreaking to see.
It really makes you think about like the impact of these events,
Yeah, yeah.
not just on people's lives, but on everything, like real estate.
Totally. It's a huge part of the conversation, isn't it? When we talk about these events, we have to talk about real estate.
Yeah, and speaking of navigating the world of real estate, we got to give a shout out to our sponsors, Flowers and Associates. They're the experts in property rentals.
Oh, they're
If
fantastic.
you're ever in need, their number is 9001-445-8148. And actually, our guest from a few episodes back, Robert Flowers,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
he just released a new book, Real Estate Investment Strategies for Beginners.
I saw that. I've been meaning to pick it up.
It's super relevant to what we're talking about today because it actually dives into fire risk and how that plays into real estate investing.
Oh, that's smart. I'll have to get a copy. Especially with what we're diving into today. I mean, it's a big topic, right? How fires completely shake up the real estate game.
Right. And it's not just about the obvious stuff like
Mhm.
like the damage to the property itself.
No, no, not at all.
It's the whole ripple effect it has on a market.
Absolutely, the whole thing.
So let's start with the direct hit, right?
Sure.
Like when a fire actually damages a property, what are we looking at in terms of the impact?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is the loss of value.
Yeah.
And it's not just about the cost of repairing the physical damage.
Right, because you can fix a house, but
Exactly. You can fix it up, but it still carries this sort of stigma.
oh, like a scar.
Yeah, like a scar. Exactly. Buyers, they see fire damage on a record and they get skittish.
I get it. It's that what if it happens again?
Yeah.
Thought.
It makes sense, right? Would you feel comfortable?
Probably not.
Right.
And then there's the whole insurance thing, which can be a real headache.
Oh, tell me about it. Insurance it's supposed to be there to protect you.
Your safety net.
Right. But after a fire, especially in areas that are high risk,
Yeah.
it can turn into a huge financial burden.
How so?
Well, insurance companies, they look at the risk, right? And after a big fire, they reevaluate everything. Premiums can go way up.
For everyone.
Yeah, even for people whose homes weren't directly affected. It's the whole area and in some cases it gets even worse.
Worse how?
Insurers they might refuse to renew your policy altogether.
Wow.
Yeah, and then you're stuck trying to find coverage in an area that's now considered super high risk.
That makes the whole market really unstable, doesn't it? It's like the impact spreads way beyond the properties that actually burn.
Exactly. It's like this ripple effect, you know?
Yeah.
And it makes sense if you think about it. If a whole neighborhood gets hit by fire, people are going to be scared.
Right, they'll be hesitant to move there.
Exactly. Buyers disappear, demand drops, and suddenly it becomes a buyer's market.
Which is great if you're buying, but
But terrible if you're trying to sell. You know, you might be forced to lower your price just to get any offers.
and that brings down property values for
Well,
the whole area.
exactly. The whole area. Just because it's near where the fire happened, you know.
Yeah.
Even I get a little nervous when I see those images on the news,
Me too.
you know. And my house isn't anywhere near California.
It's like it just makes you think twice about places with high fire risk, right?
Exactly. It plants that seed of doubt, even if you're, thousands of miles away.
It's like a psychological impact, right?
Absolutely.
It's
Yeah.
not just the physical flames, it's the idea of the risk that stays with you.
Yeah, and that idea, that perception of risk,
Yeah.
that's a huge factor in the real estate market. It can really depress activity for years after a fire.
So how do we measure that perceived risk?
Yeah, it sounds like a feeling, right?
Yeah, it's like in your head.
But you can actually quantify it, you know?
Really?
There are ways we look at things like property values in the area,
Uh-huh.
compare them to similar areas that haven't had fires recently.
Like so.
We also look at insurance claims, how many people are filing them.
Yeah.
Population changes, like are people moving out of the area after a fire?
Interesting.
And even things like online searches, what are people searching for related to fire risk in specific locations?
So you can see what's worrying people.
Exactly. You can see where their minds are going.
Okay. Now, we often hear about community resilience after these events.
Right. That's a big one.
What does that actually mean?
Well, basically about how effectively a community bounces back after a disaster, right?
Yeah.
It's about rebuilding homes and infrastructure, sure, but it's also about the social fabric, how the community comes together, how they adapt to living in a place where fire is a real risk. And it's super important for the real estate market too.
How so?
Well, if a community shows they're resilient, if they're taking steps to prevent future fires, if they're investing in rebuilding and mitigation,
Mm-hmm.
that sends a really positive signal to buyers and investors.
It's like it shows you're serious about it.
Exactly. You're not just throwing your hands up in the air and saying, well, that's it for us.
Right. You're taking action.
Exactly. And that can actually stabilize property values.
Right.
And it can even attract new residents who are looking for a place that's proactive about safety.
So it's not just about rebuilding. It's about rebuilding smarter?
Yeah, smarter and more resilient.
Okay. So let's shift gears a bit.
Sure.
Let's talk about the long-term implications, especially for people who are thinking about, investing in real estate.
Yeah, definitely.
How do fires change the investment game?
Well, they act as these catalysts for change, like in urban planning, in building codes.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, after a big fire, you often see stricter regulations,
Like what?
like requirements for fire-resistant materials,
Makes sense?
landscaping guidelines, to create defensible space around homes,
Uh-huh.
things like sprinkler systems, ember-resistant vents.
So it's about making things safer.
Exactly. But all these changes, they add to the cost of construction.
Right.
So developers have to factor that in, and it can impact how feasible new projects are.
So it makes things more expensive?
Yeah, and that cost can get passed down to buyers. But it's not just about the hard costs,
What else is there?
Investor sentiment, how investors feel about a particular area.
Right. Because they're the ones putting money in.
Exactly. And they're all about assessing risk, right?
Mhm.
After a fire, they're going to be more cautious about areas that are prone to fire. They're going to look at the data, the history of fires, the vegetation. They want to know how effective the local fire mitigation strategies are.
So it's not just about rebuilding. It's about rebuilding in a way that makes investors feel secure.
Exactly. It's about making them feel like their investment is protected. But, this is also where opportunities can emerge.
Opportunities?
Yeah. For investors who are willing to, take a little bit of a calculated risk, fire-affected areas can actually offer some potentially high returns.
Really?
Yeah, think about it.
Yeah.
You invest in fire-resistant construction. You use innovative technologies like ember-resistant siding, landscaping.
Uh-huh.
You work with the community on fire prevention. You're contributing to a safer community. And you're potentially getting in on properties that might be undervalued.
So you're turning a challenge into a positive.
Exactly. And it's not just about the properties themselves.
What else?
Think about the services that are in high demand after a fire. Fire restoration companies, experts in fire-resistant landscaping, architects who specialize in fire-safe designs.
Right. It's like a whole new market opens up.
Yeah, exactly. And insurance, of course.
Mm.
The need for specialized fire insurance in high-risk areas, that goes way up after a big event. It's like, remember Flowers and Associates?
Yeah.
They're the experts in rentals, right? Well, after a fire, you need that same level of expertise in fire-related services.
It's about finding the right people for the job.
Exactly. So what's the takeaway for our listeners today?
Yeah, what have we learned?
I think it's that fires are incredibly powerful forces.
Yeah.
They don't just change landscapes. They change economies. They change communities.
Right.
And understanding how fires impact real estate is absolutely essential, whether you're a homeowner, a potential buyer, or an investor.
It's about awareness. It's about being prepared. And it's about making smart decisions.
Yeah, decisions that are based on a solid understanding of the risks and the opportunities.
Totally. And it makes you think, right?
Yes.
Like how can we as individuals, as communities, work together to make things better?
Right. How can we mitigate the risk? How can we promote responsible development? How can we build resilience?
It's a conversation we all need to be having. And if you're out there looking for guidance, on navigating the real estate market, don't forget Flowers and Associates.
Great.
Their number is 940-445-8148. And for anyone who's just starting out in real estate investing, Robert Flowers' new book is a fantastic resource.
I'm going to get myself a copy.
Until next time, everyone, stay informed, stay engaged, and stay safe.
See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.